Oh, I'm getting a call immediately at the start of this video. That's actually crazy. I've got to take this. This is like my fourth time recording this. That's how long it's been since I've made a video. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Alex, and wow, it has been a long time since I made a video. I know that, and I sincerely apologize. However, I figured I'd pick up back the camera again because we're at an interesting moment right now. One of my first videos on the channel was the PlayStation 5 review, and that was a lot of fun to do. But now it's Saturday, May 31st, which is about 5 days from the Nintendo Switch 2's launch on Thursday, June 5th, 2025. So why don't I take you guys through the announcement of the Nintendo Switch 2, the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, to the pre-order dilemmas and the debacles in between, and all the way up to launch. And finally, then we'll end with my review on the Nintendo Switch 2. So make sure to stick around, hit the like button, and subscribe if you're interested. And let's get the show on the road. Now, the Switch 2 announcement trailer was kind of ruined by the fact that we already knew what the Switch 2 was going to look like well before it dropped. I mean, there were leaks upon leaks upon leaks of what this thing would look like and what it would be able to do. I mean, we even had a pre-production unit leak from the factory. We saw a lot of what the Switch 2 was going to look like well before it dropped. But that didn't make the announcement trailer any less special to me, because I was glad to see that Nintendo was just improving upon what they were doing with the original Switch. While it's not necessarily a slight retooling of the Nintendo Switch, it's certainly very close to what the Nintendo Switch was trying to do. It is very much so a next step for the Nintendo Switch platform. Obviously, by its own name, it's trying to just be the next step. But that form factor, that place it had in so many households, was very special because some people wanted the power of a home console but on the go, and people that wanted to enjoy more casual games could just pick up the console and play their game and then put it down whenever they wanted to. It didn't really have to be this large investment, but it could be if they wanted it to. That's what made the Nintendo Switch so special, and it's great to see Nintendo improve on that form factor that they had already had a pretty good place in the market as is. Now, as competition for the Nintendo Switch kind of increased over the years with PC handhelds, Nintendo knew that its games are really what helped make it. So when they revealed the Nintendo Switch 2, what did they reveal alongside it? A new Mario Kart game. That Mario Kart game will be subject to its own video later on, so be on the lookout for that and make sure you're subscribed to see when I drop that. But in that announcement trailer, when we saw the 24 racers all speed past the initial goalpost, let's just say it was a pretty magical day. Now, after that original announcement video premiered, we kind of got nothing for a good long while. A lot of speculation on the fans' part, but honestly, there wasn't really much information on the Nintendo Switch 2, which Nintendo was probably very happy about, up until the Nintendo Direct. That Direct had so many cool moments, from all the tech features that were involved as someone who's really into tech specs, to Mario Kart World, to Kirby Air Ride, to all the third-party support, including Cyberpunk and the Duskbloods, and ending on the brand new Donkey Kong game. Those games looked fantastic, and the fact that they were all running on Switch hardware and third-party developers were confident in the system enough to support them in the Nintendo Direct was pretty exciting. However, the startling thing about the Direct was what wasn't in the Direct. Things like the price. Now, Nintendo later revealed on their website that the price of the Nintendo Switch would be $450. Now, that's a little bit more than I was honestly expecting for what the Switch 2 would cost. And they even introduced a Mario Kart World bundle, which would be $500. Now, it doesn't sound too bad. $50, a tie-in game, that sounds pretty decent, pretty reasonable. But then they revealed the price of Mario Kart World separately. That price was $80. There's even a rumor going around after the Direct that Mario Kart World physically would be $90. Luckily that turned out not to be true, but for Mario Kart to be $80 when Nintendo just started experimenting with variable pricing with Tears of the Kingdom being $70, it had a lot of fans concerned, me included. I'm a bit skeptical about that $80 price tag currently before we even have the system, just from what Nintendo has shown of Mario Kart, announcing that Mario Kart World would have its own Direct later on, and then showing that Direct and it not really revealing that much more information than the original Nintendo Switch Direct did. It definitely has me concerned about the value and the proposition of this variable pricing and how much it will affect games in the future. Considering that even newer games, like brand new fresh titles, such as like a Donkey Kong Bonanza, not to say Mario Kart World isn't a fresh brand new title, but it's a Mario Kart game. That's something we haven't really had before, and that's maintained a $70 price point. So for Mario Kart World to be $80 separately, I wonder if Nintendo is offsetting that by the fact that they're introducing this limited time bundle, which marks the price of Mario Kart World down to about $50. So I'm not sure how credible that idea could be, considering that that's not going to be a regular bundle you can find. It's only going to be available into the fall. Pre-orders for the Nintendo Switch 2 were supposed to go live on April 9th, about 7 days after the Direct, a full week. However, things happened in the US that didn't allow that to come to fruition. Nintendo didn't do pre-orders on April 9th. Instead, they eventually opened pre-orders on April 24th in the US. The rest of the world got them around April 9th, which was pretty unfortunate because the whole idea of a console launch is everyone around the world is experiencing this thing at the same time, and now that feeling was just like ripped away in a sense, giving a whole bit of uneasiness throughout the entire pre-order period. So by the time it came to April 24th, many fans got online to purchase the Nintendo or pre-order the Nintendo Switch 2 from their local retailers. Walmart, Best Buy, GameStop, and Target were the four that were going live. GameStop didn't actually go live at midnight, they rather went live at 11 a.m. on the 24th. Meanwhile, every other retailer went live at midnight on the 24th. Oh my goodness, that was an entire debacle. My pre-order experience wasn't very smooth. It was actually quite turbulent, but I ended up doing a-okay. I actually had about a couple friends of mine help me try and pre-order the Switch. Shout out to them. They're so wonderful for helping me do that, and I really do appreciate all their help. So I was on Walmart, a friend of mine was on Target, and two other friends of mine were on Best Buy. Walmart started putting me in the queue at 11:58 on the 23rd. And that was a surprise because I didn't refresh the page to be put in the queue. So I was like about a minute late, which could mean you don't get the console. Target ended up selling out almost instantly, but then coming back in stock, but then also going out of stock instantly. It was really weird. And then Best Buy didn't go live until about I think about 12:49 was when they actually went live. I was seeing like no progress. On Walmart, like I couldn't even go through. And then eventually, when the line did let me in, I literally couldn't even add it to my cart. I couldn't move forward, I couldn't do anything. It was just glitching. And then Target, it was just a lot of trial and error and constant failure. And then when you finally got through, you could breathe that sigh of relief until you couldn't. Because as I got my order, so many people were starting to flood Twitter and just anywhere they could post, saying that essentially places were already starting to cancel their orders. There was just no comfort in knowing that your Switch 2 pre-order could just get canceled and you don't really have any reason as to why. You're just instantly canceled. Fortunately enough, that didn't happen. Now, I heard a lot about what happened at GameStop the next day. A lot of people were able to go in person and get their pre-orders there, which was really great to see. It's really nice to see the gaming community come together in a moment like that and bond over this experience and get to hang out with one another. So hearing that GameStop pre-orders in person was really great, but online also went just about as poorly as it did for the people that stayed up at midnight on the 24th. So I guess I will see you guys back on this couch in about a week's time, depending on how long it takes me to evaluate the Switch 2, because I might have some thoughts and some things I want to make sure of before I finalize my review. So yeah, see you guys soon. Alrighty, so it is June 5th, which means it is time to unbox this Nintendo Switch 2. I thought I'd do a quick little unboxing for you guys just to show you all what was inside the box. As you can see, I pre-ordered the Mario Kart World bundle of the Nintendo Switch. I got the one with the sticker on the side. Funnily enough, there's two versions of this Mario Kart bundle out there. One that comes with a code in the box, which is the one that I had, and the one that just had a label on the bottom, which comes with Mario Kart pre-installed. But as you can see, once you open up the box, you get the Switch, the Joy-Cons. Underneath that, you get the instruction manuals and the software manual and the Mario Kart World code. You get the HDMI cable, you get the power cable, you get the Joy-Con grip, you get the Joy-Con straps, you get the dock. And yeah, that's pretty much all you get in the box. It's a lot of goodies in here. But as you guys can see, the Nintendo Switch 2 is quite bigger than the original Switch, or even the Switch OLED, which I have here. It feels a bit more premium than the other Switch, which is great to see. Love to see these improvements happen over time. The Joy-Cons are attached to the sides magnetically. I'm sure as many of you all know that. And the magnets are actually really strong enough that the Switch doesn't feel like it's a toy anymore, in the sense that the old Switch would rock when you had the Joy-Cons in there for a good period of time. These no longer feel like they're gonna rock. They feel quite solid. This feels like one unit, and I love that. The Joy-Con grip, I'm not a big fan of, considering the sides, they kind of like not cut into your hands, but like they don't rest comfortably with the insides of your hands. And that makes it feel a little bit worse, in my opinion, than the old Joy-Con grip. Also, the way to detach the straps and the Joy-Con from the Switch itself is actually really interesting, using the little button on the back and it pushes off. I'm interested to see how long that will last and if there's going to be any issues with it breaking or anything like that. So yeah, that's everything that comes in the Nintendo Switch 2 box. As you can see here, I also unboxed the micro SD card and the carrying case from Walmart, and they're pretty good quality, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. The SD card obviously does what the SD card's gonna do, but the case has a lot of room for stuff that I even have room to put my HDMI cable and power cable and the Joy-Con straps and a whole bunch of other stuff in there. And it has a space for 12 games, which is great. So yeah, all right, now I'm gonna go play Mario Kart World till my head explodes, and I'll see you guys very shortly. Alright, so it's been about a week since the Nintendo Switch 2 dropped, and I've had a few thoughts. Right out of the box, the Nintendo Switch 2 feels a lot like the Switch 1 in my opinion, in the sense that it is a tablet that is a hybrid console that can connect to a TV and you can take on the go, that kind of thing. That's how it feels a lot like the Switch 1. Where it feels different than the Switch 1 is the quality of that experience. The Switch 2 feels like a much more premium product. You could tell that the Switch 2 was made to feel a little bit more professional, or even just better than the Switch 1. The Switch 1's materials feel a lot more, I don't want to say cheap, but they feel substantially worse than the Switch 2. Compared to the Switch 2, the Switch 1 significantly feels much worse, honestly. There are no real visible screws on the back of the Switch 2. The Joy-Con rails are just this one color with the magnetic pins right there. They attach magnetically. The body doesn't shake that much compared to the Switch 1. And honestly, holding it in hand, it feels like this is one solid piece, as opposed to the Switch where we were conscious that the Joy-Cons could be taken off at any moment. This just feels like one solid unit. While I'm here, let's talk about these Joy-Cons, because these Joy-Cons are really cool. The original Joy-Cons were really cool, and they still are. They're fantastic pieces of tech. It's so surprising how much technology they've put into each Joy-Con for it to be its own standalone controller with a bunch of unique features. Specifically on the old Joy-Cons, it was quite astounding that is specifically on the right one, you have this little IR camera, you have the side shoulder buttons. They can operate on their own or as a unit together, and they connect really seamlessly with the original Switch. Those are all really cool innovations, and to see Nintendo essentially build on that with these new Joy-Con is really exciting. One of the big new features is this optical sensor in the Joy-Con like centerpiece that can pretty much act as a mouse. That feature works very seamlessly on the Switch 2's home screen. I haven't been able to try it out in an actual game, but I would love to see Super Mario Maker 2 or Super Mario Maker 3, if they're making that, with this new optical sensor. Additionally, holding it on the sides and using it as a controller is significantly improved over the previous Joy-Con, considering that before, these small buttons made it really hard to press, and even with the Joy-Con straps, those were still not the most comfortable experience just because of how tight everything was on this Joy-Con. Now, with this much larger Joy-Con, you have a little bit more room to breathe and actually press things. Additionally, this mechanism to release the Joy-Con, I was a bit worried about it at first. However, I think for right now, my fears can be quashed because honestly, it works. It just works, honestly, and I have yet to encounter an issue with them. I thought the new C button would do a lot more than just open the chat, but it is nice to have chat so easily accessible that you don't have to enter the home menu and go to some other screen. You can literally just press the C button and you can start chatting with your friends really quickly, which is really great to see that Nintendo is improving on the social aspect of these consoles. Small quality of life improvements like the USB-C at the top, the inclusion of micro SD Express, the larger buttons, the smoother joysticks, honestly make the Switch 2 a real joy to use in handheld mode. When docked, the Switch 2 offers a very, very similar experience to the original Switch, however. It feels like a more refined experience. The Switch 2's home menu isn't very substantially different than the original Switch, but it is nicer. It is cleaned up a bit. I like the little accents around everything. I love the ASMR like pop noises that they've kind of embedded into the system's DNA at this point. I loved all that stuff, but it isn't really substantially different, but I also don't need it to be. I don't need the Switch 2 to have all these sounds and weird things that are a part of it, even though they are fun personality parts of the Switch or previous Nintendo consoles home screens. I just needed to really work and boot me into the game I needed to. So, and be responsive, which is greatly improved here. I don't know if we know how much RAM is on the Switch 2, but it is significantly faster than the old Switch. The eShop runs a whole lot smoother, and using the cursor and the joystick on that menu is actually a lot of fun. Although, how much fun can you make browsing a store, really? Now, the games and the performance. I just think that the Switch 2 is a very capable device, and Nintendo especially knows how to optimize their games. They know how to make things run buttery smooth. As we see them enter this new resolution scale, it'll be interesting to see how Nintendo games optimize for that extra level of detail. And I guess with Mario Kart World we can really start to see, but I'm interested in newer titles, things like Donkey Kong, seeing a brand new from the ground up developed game for the Switch 2, like Donkey Kong Bonanza, will be really exciting. So I am excited to see what that's going to look like in July. Overall, I think my experience with the Switch 2 has been very reminiscent of the first. I remember a lot from what happened back in 2017 when the Switch 1 came out, and it was a magical experience. And coming back to a similar form factor and a similar style of console, it's brought back a lot of those memories, which is great to see. It would be hard-pressed for Nintendo to kind of change their style and change what they innovated with the Switch 1 because of how popular it is. The Switch 1's form factor, its appeal, is so widely appealing, honestly. It is, because people can either find a hardcore game console through it, or they can find something casual that they can take on the go with it. And for Nintendo to give that market up would be ridiculous to me, because That's so widely appealing to so many people. Now, do I think the Switch 2 innovates enough for it to be considered a successor? I think graphically it does. Obviously, we all know how much more powerful the Switch 2 is over the Switch 1, and the Switch, in order to keep continuing on to this next generation of consoles, it needed the upgrade really badly. However, I don't know if there is enough innovation when it comes to calling this a successor. Nintendo said they built a lot of the Switch 2 from the ground up, starting from nothing or starting from scratch. I don't really believe that, honestly. It's hard to see that when you hold the Switch 2 and the Switch 1 side by side. It's hard to not think Nintendo just took a lot of the feedback they had from the Switch 1 and then put it into the Switch 2. And that's not a bad thing. The Switch, as I mentioned, is a fantastic platform that had some excellent games and excellent execution behind a wonderful idea. It honestly just needed the refinement. It didn't need to be reinvented, just reworked to keep up with these brand new times. The battery, I haven't run into the battery issue that much, but then again, I haven't been taking it outside of the house that much. I've just been playing it in the house, and when it just goes low, I just dock it so it just charges. But I am sure that the battery would become a problem because it was a problem on the original Switch when I first got it. Overall, would I recommend the Switch 2? Absolute buy if you are a die-hard Nintendo fan or love to be on the bleeding edge. Now, for the casual person, I don't think you need it immediately. I would wait to see if any games pop up within the next 6 months that really stand out to you, that really say this is going to be worth the console purchase for me. So if that's how you are with this console, I would honestly wait until those purchases, because those are going to be excellent purchases. Those games are going to make the system worth it for you, and that's what I would wait for. Otherwise, I wouldn't buy it immediately. And for those people that don't care about the games that are on the console, obviously I wouldn't buy the Switch 2. There's no reason for you to buy it if you're not going to play the games that Nintendo or other third parties make for it. But I honestly think you will have an excellent time with the Switch 2 and the launch offerings that it has. I think Mario Kart World as a pack-in game was an excellent idea. For $50, that game is very, very much worth it. I want to do an independent review of Mario Kart World just to really dive into why I don't think that game is worth $80 compared to a bunch of the other games that I know are coming to Switch that are probably going to be $70. But as a pack-in game, however, for people wanting to experience what the Switch 2 has to offer, I think it is a no-brainer that you just got to do it. For $50, Mario Kart World is absolutely worth it. And I'd even say for $60 or $70. I am a bit concerned about that $80 price point, and I can talk about that in another video. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Switch 2. I really love it, and I cannot wait to see what Nintendo does over the next decade with this console. The Switch 1 is probably one of Nintendo's best consoles, and that's really, really hard to say considering that they've had so many excellent consoles over the years. Nintendo constantly sets the bar when it comes to at-home console experiences. And honestly, I'm just really excited to see what the next few years bring for Nintendo, because with a lot of games that we have on the Switch 1 being as good as they are on that low of a hardware level, giving Nintendo and other third parties the extra room they need to develop is really exciting, and I cannot wait to see what happens. So that's my thoughts. That's my review on the Nintendo Switch 2. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope to be posting more throughout the year, so please make sure to like and subscribe and come back for my next video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.